Close your eyes, and let your breath slow down. In, and out, gently. Tonight, you are traveling far from the noise of the modern world, back to a city that once glittered at the edge of the Mediterranean. Ancient Alexandria. Not the Alexandria of postcards or textbooks. But the living city. The kind of place where your sandals pick up dust, where salt hangs in the air, where voices layer over one another like waves. Imagine arriving before sunrise. The sea is a dark sheet of metal. The horizon is only a thinner shade of black. Somewhere out there, a ship creaks, and rope rubs against wood with a tired, familiar sound. Behind you, the city is still half asleep. Alexandria is built with a boldness that feels almost impossible, straight roads, wide avenues, stone buildings rising in clean lines, as if someone tried to draw order onto the world itself. You stand near the great harbor, and you can sense the scale of it, even in the dim light. This is not a quiet fishing town. This is a hub of empire, a mouth that swallows cargo from distant shores and breathes out ideas, rumors, and wealth. A cool wind moves past your cheek. Then, slowly, the city begins to wake. A door opens with a wooden sigh. A lamp flickers to life. Footsteps scuff across stone. You hear the low murmur of someone greeting a neighbor, soft, routine, unremarkable. And that is what makes it real. Because ancient Alexandria isn't only a place of famous names and grand buildings. It is also a place of ordinary mornings, of workers, traders, students, sailors, scribes, cooks, and children. As the first pale light spreads, the smell of bread appears in the air. Somewhere nearby, an oven has been burning since long before dawn. A baker pulls flat loaves from heat-darkened clay. The crust crackles faintly as it cools. In the streets, water sellers prepare their jars. A donkey snorts and shakes its head. The animal's harness creaks as someone adjusts the straps. A man yawns and stretches his arms high, then rubs his eyes with the back of his hand. You begin to walk. Your path takes you along a broad road, wide enough for carts to pass, wide enough for crowds to form. The stones beneath your feet are worn smooth in places, as if the city itself has been polished by centuries of movement. Above, the sky turns from gray to soft gold. Ahead, you see the outlines of towers and colonnades. You see balconies. You see plastered walls painted in faded color. You see signs in different languages, Greek letters most common, but also others, because Alexandria is a mixed city, a place of many tongues. Greek, Egyptian, Hebrew, Latin, and more. In Alexandria, the world feels close together. A sailor might share a cup with a scholar. A merchant might overhear a philosopher. A fisherman might sell to a palace cook. And an Egyptian priest might pass a Greek student in the same doorway. You hear laughter. It comes from a group of young men carrying baskets. They talk fast, teasing each other, arguing about nothing important. Their voices bounce between the stone columns like birds. A cart rattles by, pulled by oxen. The driver clicks his tongue and calls out, warning people to move aside. The wheels make a steady rhythm, clack, 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 over the uneven stones. You turn your head toward the water again. Now the harbor is clearer. Masts rise like a forest of spears. Some ships are small, hugging the shore. Others are deeper-bodied trading vessels, their hulls dark with tar, their ropes thick and stained by salt. Farther out, you glimpse the great lighthouse on the island of Pharos. Even if you cannot see every detail, you feel its presence, like a promise, like a guardian. At night it guides sailors home. By day it announces the city's power. And you think, if you lived here, this would be normal. You would grow up with the lighthouse in your mind the way people elsewhere grow up with mountains. As you keep walking, you notice something else. Alexandria is a city of sound. Not only the loud sound of crowds, but the layered sound of daily life, metal striking metal in a workshop, a dog barking, the splash of water thrown from a bucket, the distant chant of men lifting cargo together. And, under it all, the sea. Always the sea, breathing. You pass a small shrine tucked into a corner, simple, worn, decorated with a few offerings, a bit of flour, a coin, a ribbon. Someone has placed it there in hope, or gratitude, or fear. In this city, belief is woven into routine. People carry gods and stories the way they carry keys. Your walk continues, and the light brightens. Soon, the sun will sit over the city like a warm hand. People will fill the streets. The harbor will roar with business. The markets will thicken with spice and sweat and perfume. But for this moment, this early moment, Alexandria is gentle. A place between night and day. And if you listen closely, you can almost hear it welcoming you. Now, let's go deeper into the waking city. The first thing you feel near the docks is the smell. Salt. Tar. Fish. Wet rope. And something sharper, spices that have traveled across deserts and seas, sealed in jars, wrapped in cloth, guarded like treasure. A man stands at the edge of a pier, shouting instructions. His voice is rough, practiced. He points with a stick, directing workers as they unload amphorae, tall clay jars, carefully passing them hand to hand. Each jar contains something valuable. Olive oil. Wine. Garum, the strong fish sauce that people here use the way others use salt. Honey. Dried fruit. Grain. Sometimes glass. Sometimes papyrus. Sometimes dyes. And sometimes, quietly, something more dangerous, hidden coins, smuggled goods, information. Alexandria is not only a city of trade. It is a city of advantage. A boy runs past you with a coil of rope over his shoulder. He cannot be more than 12, but his steps are quick, and he moves like someone who has done this 1,000 times. He dodges between men without apology, because no one has time to scold him. Time here is money. A sailor sits on a crate, repairing a torn sail with a needle and thick thread. His hands move with calm speed. He does not look up as you pass. His skin is darker from sun and wind. His hair is crusted with salt. If you asked him where he has been, his answer might carry you to places that feel like myths. Cyprus. Rhodes. Crete. The Levant. Egypt's coast. Maybe even farther, if the winds and fortunes were kind. Near him, a small group argues in Greek. One man gestures wildly, complaining about a price. Another shakes his head and holds up 2 fingers, insisting on his offer. A third stands between them, speaking fast, smoothing the dispute like a hand pressing wrinkles from cloth. You notice how many people are watching. Not out of curiosity, but out of calculation. Someone is always learning what things cost. Someone is always measuring the mood of the market. If you lived in Alexandria, you would quickly understand that knowledge is currency. You walk past stacked baskets filled with dates. You pass bundles of reeds tied for building materials. You pass sacks of grain heavy enough to bow a man's shoulders. A woman stands beside a small stall with jars of preserved olives. She offers a taste on the tip of a small wooden stick. The flavor is sharp and salty, the kind that makes you swallow slowly. Nearby, a man sells bread and roasted chickpeas. He calls out a short phrase, half advertisement, half rhythm, something meant to carry over the noise. People respond without thinking, because hunger is a simple language. You imagine living here. You would learn to keep your purse close. You would learn which streets are safe after dark. You would learn the faces of regular vendors, the ones who cheat, and the ones who don't. You would learn to bargain without insulting. You would learn to step aside when a cart comes, and to keep moving when a crowd swells. Alexandria teaches you its rules quickly. A donkey brays somewhere behind you. A gull shrieks overhead. A pair of soldiers pass in a slow patrol, watching the docks with bored eyes. Their armor is not polished. Their sandals are dusty. They look like men who have stood here too many mornings. The city's power is visible even in its casualness. Because this harbor is one of the reasons kings care about Alexandria. Through these waters flow taxes, tribute, supplies for armies, luxuries for the rich, grain for the hungry. And along with goods, come stories. A sailor tells a tale about a storm that split the sky. A merchant whispers news about politics in a distant court. A traveler describes a temple where the walls shine with gold. In Alexandria, you could sit in a tavern and hear the world arrive at your table. As you move away from the pier, the streets begin to widen again. You step into a busier avenue, where the city's architecture feels grander. Tall columns. Long porticos that offer shade. Stone buildings with balconies and painted details. People flow around you like water. Some wear plain linen, practical and light. Others wear dyed cloth, jewelry, rings that catch the sun. A few walk with the easy confidence of wealth, followed by servants carrying bags and bundles. The sound changes here. Less sea, more city. Less rope and creak, more footsteps and conversation. You catch the scent of incense carried from a doorway. Then you hear music, a simple melody from a flute, thin and bright, threaded through the crowd. And you think again, if you lived here, this would be your morning. Not extraordinary. Just, life. Now, let's walk toward the heart of the city, where learning and ambition rise like heat from stone. You enter the Canopic Way, one of the city's main arteries. It stretches ahead in a long, confident line, as if Alexandria is daring the world to challenge its order. The road is broad. The stones are fitted carefully. Colonnades line the sides, creating corridors of shade where people can walk without burning under the sun. Here, you can feel Alexandria's pride. This is a planned city, born from conquest and vision. It carries the mark of power that wanted permanence. You pass a fountain where people pause to drink. Water glitters in a shallow basin. A woman adjusts her scarf and lifts a cup. A child splashes a finger into the water and is gently pulled back by an older hand. On one side of the road, you hear a teacher speaking. A small group, young men, mostly, sit or stand nearby, listening. The teacher's voice rises and falls, rhythmic, persuasive. He gestures with open hands, drawing shapes in the air as if he can sculpt an idea. You don't need to know the topic to understand the scene. In Alexandria, education is not hidden. Arguments happen in courtyards. Lectures happen in public. Debates spill into streets. People quote writers the way others quote proverbs. A man nearby laughs and says something dismissive. The students glance at him, annoyed. The teacher continues, unshaken. In this city, disagreement is expected. Sometimes even enjoyed. You keep walking, and the crowd thickens. Vendors call out. Cloth flutters. The sun climbs higher, warming the stone beneath your feet. A dog weaves between legs, searching for scraps. You pass a shop where glass is displayed. Alexandrian glass has a reputation. The pieces catch light in pale blue and green, fragile as frozen water. A buyer leans close, squinting, admiring the clarity. Across from that, a perfumer's stall releases a cloud of scent. Myrrh. Frankincense. Rose. A hint of something animal, musky. A hint of something sweet, like figs. You breathe it in and feel time shift. Because scent is one of the strongest doors to memory. And if you lived here, you would remember Alexandria by smell as much as by sight, sea salt and incense, bread and spice, smoke and perfume. A man pushes past you carrying papyrus rolls. He holds them close like fragile treasure. Papyrus is common here, yet still valuable. Words matter in Alexandria. Records matter. Letters matter. Contracts matter. And beyond contracts, stories matter. A poet stands near a column, reciting softly to a friend. The friend nods, impressed, then offers a critique. The poet frowns, argues, defends his phrasing. The conversation is intimate, intense, the way artists speak when they care too much. You turn your head and notice a procession. Not grand, not royal, just a small religious gathering. A few people carry offerings. Someone shakes a small instrument that makes a dry, rattling sound. They move with solemn faces, heading toward a temple or shrine. No one stops them. The city makes room for many devotions. Greek gods, Egyptian gods, older gods whose names have been spoken here for centuries, newer names brought by travelers. People choose what they need. People blend traditions. People pray for health, for love, for safety at sea, for a child to survive the summer heat. You walk under the shade of the columns. Stone above, stone below, and human life flowing in between. Somewhere to the east lies the royal quarter, where palaces and gardens meet the sea breeze. Somewhere nearby stands the Mouse Ion, home to scholars, and the great library that people speak of with reverence. And you feel a quiet tug of curiosity. Because Alexandria is famous not only for commerce, not only for architecture, but for thought. A city that tried to gather all knowledge. And keep it. As you continue down the road, the air changes slightly. Less fish, more ink. Less tar, more dust from papyrus. Less shouting, more conversation. You are approaching the realm of scholars. A world where a person might spend a lifetime chasing a question. Now, let's step closer to the places where learning becomes a kind of devotion. You enter a quieter area, still busy, but with a different energy. Here, the people move with books under their arms, with tablets, with scrolls tied in cloth. Their sandals are not always cleaner than anyone else's, but their eyes carry a particular focus, like they're listening to a conversation you cannot hear. You pass a courtyard shaded by trees. A group sits in a half circle. Someone reads aloud from a text. The reader's voice is steady, careful, like he understands the weight of each word. Another person interrupts with a question. Another corrects a detail. They argue politely, then less politely. It's not hostility. It's hunger. To live in Alexandria, even as an ordinary person, is to be near this hunger. Sometimes it inspires you. Sometimes it irritates you. Sometimes it feels like a kind of arrogance, people who think they can trap the world inside their minds. But you cannot deny the electricity of it. You imagine the library, not as a single room, but as a complex of spaces, storerooms, reading areas, places where scrolls are copied and catalogued. You picture scribes at long tables, dipping reeds into ink. The work is slow. Precise. A single mistake can change meaning, and meaning is everything. Ink stains fingers. Dust clings to skin. Eyes ache in the afternoon light. Yet they continue. Because a copied text is a rescued text. In one corner, a scholar speaks about the stars. Not in dreamy language. But in calculations. He draws lines on a wax tablet, marking angles, distances, patterns. He talks about how the sky moves with a logic that can be understood. Someone listening nods, trying to keep up. Another looks skeptical. You think about how radical that is. In a world where life is fragile, where illness can take a person quickly, where a bad harvest can starve a neighborhood, there are people here who spend their days measuring shadows, debating geometry, mapping the heavens. A different kind of survival. You walk farther and hear another conversation, this one about medicine. A man describes symptoms, using careful words. Another responds with a theory about humors, about balance, about diet, about what heat and cold do inside the body. Whether they are right or wrong, they are trying. Trying to understand the human body the way sailors try to understand the sea. Nearby, a young student carries a bundle of scrolls and looks nervous. He pauses outside a doorway as if preparing himself. Maybe he's about to meet a teacher. Maybe he's about to recite something from memory. Maybe he's about to be corrected in front of others. He breathes in. Then he steps inside. If you lived in Alexandria, you might have known that feeling. The feeling of standing at the edge of opportunity. Because in a city like this, your mind can lift you. Or crush you. Now, step away from the scholars for a moment and imagine the wider truth of the city. Not everyone here reads. Not everyone has time for philosophy. Many people wake before dawn, work all day, and sleep exhausted. Many people are enslaved. Many people live in crowded quarters where water is shared and privacy is rare. Alexandria's brilliance casts shadows. And still, even shadows are part of the story. You walk back toward a busier street. A man sells cheap lamps made of clay. A woman haggles for onions. A child carries water in a small jug, careful not to spill. A fisherman argues about the freshness of his catch. Life presses on. Above the rooftops, you see birds circling in the brightening sky. The day is fully awake now. And the city is louder. You feel heat gathering on the stones. In the distance, you hear a deeper sound, chants, perhaps, or the murmur of a larger crowd. Maybe a festival. Maybe a public announcement. Maybe a procession near a temple. In Alexandria, you can turn a corner and find yourself inside history without warning. By midday, the sun sits high and unblinking. Alexandria is brighter now, harsher at the edges. Shadows shrink beneath feet. Stone feels warmer. Dust rises with every step and clings to ankles and hems. And the city's great market districts, already busy in the morning, become a living tide. You walk toward the noise. Before you even see the stalls, you hear them. The bargaining voices, quick and musical. The slap of sandals on stone. The rattle of baskets. The cry of a seller announcing something fresh, something rare, something only for today. When you enter the market, it surrounds you completely. There are layers of color and texture. Purple-dyed cloth hung like banners. Woven baskets filled with lentils, beans, and wheat. Piles of figs splitting open, dark and sticky. Bright pomegranates with skins like polished leather. Bundles of herbs, green, sharp, fragrant, tied with string. Fish on ice is not a thing here. Instead, fish lies on trays in the open air, and the sellers shout as if volume can hold off decay. A woman leans over a stall, inspecting a tuna-like cut with suspicion. The seller smiles too widely. They argue. They settle. Coins change hands. You realize something important. To live in Alexandria, you must become skilled at reading people. Not in a poetic way. In a practical way. You learn what a true smile looks like. You learn the difference between confidence and deception. You learn when to insist, and when to walk away. A boy brushes past you, then another. For a moment you feel a tug at your belt. You look down. The boy is already gone, absorbed into the crowd like a drop of ink in water. The market teaches you caution. But it also offers comfort, in a strange way. Because the market is predictable. It has rhythms. Morning brings vegetables and bread. Midday brings more meat and fish. Late afternoon brings cheaper prices as people rush to sell what won't last through the night. If you live here long enough, you can navigate the chaos with your eyes half closed. You pass a spice seller. His stall is a map of the world in powder form. Saffron, expensive as gold threads. Cumin, warm and earthy. Coriander, citrusy and bright. Pepper, sharp and valuable. Cinnamon bark, curled like dried scrolls. He lets a pinch fall into your palm. You rub it between fingers, and scent blooms, deep, rich, ancient. This smell has traveled. It has crossed deserts on camelback. It has survived storms at sea. It has passed through hands that spoke languages you will never hear. And now it rests on your skin. That is Alexandria. A city where the world arrives not only as ships, but as flavors. Near the spice stall, you find a small stand selling cheap wine. Men drink from cups while standing, talking loudly, joking, arguing about politics, complaining about taxes, praising some official, insulting another. In one corner, a man with a rough beard tells a story about a storm. He uses his hands like sails, like waves, like lightning. People laugh at the dramatic parts. Someone interrupts to correct a detail. He argues back. The story grows larger in the retelling. You continue through the market and the air changes again. Now you smell sweat, pressed bodies, heat. You pass a narrow alley where the crowd thins. Here, behind the bright stalls and public life, Alexandria shows its hidden side. A woman sits in a doorway, sewing a torn garment. Her face is tired. She watches the street without expression, as if her mind is somewhere else. Inside the dim room behind her, you see movement, children, perhaps, or someone preparing food. You hear a soft cough. Many people here live close together. Rooms are small. Water is carried from wells or public fountains. Privacy is rare. Some buildings are elegant, airy, decorated with painted walls. Others are cramped, crumbling, patched again and again. Alexandria contains extremes. And if you lived here, your world might be vast. Or it might be only a few streets wide. You walk past a man repairing sandals. He sits low, legs crossed, thread between his fingers. His hands work steadily, and his eyes barely look up. Someone hands him a broken strap. He nods. He fixes it. A small act of survival. As you step back into the bigger street, the noise returns. A cart passes loaded with firewood. A donkey refuses to move until it's slapped lightly and coaxed. A child laughs and runs, chased by another. Above you, the sun burns. And you begin to understand why people here plan their days around heat. Because midday is not only a time. It is a force. Now, as the afternoon approaches, we'll follow the city toward the places where belief and power meet. In Alexandria, religion is everywhere, but it does not feel like a single voice. It feels like many voices overlapping. Greek and Egyptian, old and new, public and private. You walk toward a temple district, guided by sound. A rhythm of chanting, slow and steady. A scent of incense thick enough to taste. The first shrine you pass is small. A niche in a wall with a carved figure inside. Someone has placed a little oil lamp at its base. The flame flickers in daylight like it refuses to be ignored. A woman pauses there, touches her fingers to her lips, then to the stone. A simple gesture. A brief prayer. She continues walking as if nothing happened, but you can feel the weight in that moment. Because people here pray for practical things. Health. Safe childbirth. Protection from fever. A good harvest. A husband who comes home. A son who survives the year. In ancient cities, the gods are not distant ideas. They are part of the daily negotiation with life. As you walk deeper, the structures become larger. Columns rise. Stone steps widen. Painted reliefs show figures that look both human and otherworldly. You hear a priest speaking in a formal tone. His voice is not for casual conversation. It is meant to carry authority, to shape air into meaning. Some worshippers bring offerings, bread, wine, flowers. Others bring coins, small but sincere. You notice how people behave at the temple entrance. Some stand taller, as if trying to be seen by the divine. Others lower their eyes, small and careful. A child clings to a parent's hand. The parent whispers something, perhaps a warning, perhaps a lesson, perhaps a story about what happens if you misbehave near holy ground. In the temple courtyard, you see the blending that makes Alexandria distinct. Greek gods are present, names carried across the sea. Egyptian gods are present, names older than the city itself. And sometimes, the gods seem to merge, becoming something new. People do not always draw clean borders around belief. They draw lines where they need them. A man offers incense and speaks in Greek. A woman offers a small carved figure and speaks in Egyptian. A traveler watches, respectful but uncertain. Somewhere nearby, you hear another language, Hebrew, soft but firm. In Alexandria, there is a large Jewish community, with its own traditions, texts, and rhythms. You imagine the synagogues, the households where stories are told, laws are recited, meals are shared according to rules that shape identity. In this city, belief is also belonging. And belief can also be tension. Because when many identities share a single space, friction is inevitable. But so is exchange. Ideas move the way spices move. Hand to hand, market to market, mind to mind. You leave the temple area and pass a public notice board where a few men gather to read announcements. Not everyone can read. Those who can become translators for those who cannot. A man reads aloud. Others listen. Someone mutters a complaint. Authority in Alexandria is present in stone, in soldiers, in taxes, but also in writing. Writing makes power permanent. As you continue, you see a procession in the distance. This one is larger. Musicians. People carrying decorated objects. Someone holding a tall standard that catches the sun. The crowd parts as it approaches. Some people cheer. Some watch quietly. Some turn away as if it's not their God, not their concern. You stand still and let it pass. You feel the vibration of drums through the ground. You smell crushed flowers underfoot. For a moment, Alexandria feels like a stage. And everyone is both actor and audience. Next, we'll step into one of the city's most imposing sacred places, where religion, learning, and politics meet in stone. You climb. The air shifts as you rise above the street level, leaving behind the densest heat and noise. The path leads toward a higher ground where the city seems to look outward, as if even its temples want a view. Ahead stands the Serapeum. A great sanctuary complex associated with the god Serapis, created to speak to more than one tradition at once. Even if you are not a believer, the place commands attention. Stone steps. Massive columns. Walls that cast deep shadows. You feel smaller here, the way a person feels small beneath cliffs. At the entrance, people pause. Some do it out of reverence. Some do it out of fear. Some do it simply because it is customary to slow down before greatness. Inside the courtyard, the air smells of incense and sun-baked stone. A priest walks by in garments that mark his role. He does not hurry. His calm pace makes everyone else seem hurried, restless. You look around and see that this place is not only religious. It is also political. Temples in great cities are not merely about prayer. They are about legitimacy. They are about identity. They are about who has the right to rule, and whose gods are honored by the state. You hear a conversation between two men near a column. One speaks about a recent decision by officials. The other responds with sarcasm. They lower their voices as a guard passes. Power is always listening. Near a shaded area, you see scholars again, men carrying scrolls, discussing something with intensity. Because even here, learning and belief mix. Alexandria has always been a place where people try to connect the heavens and the earth, through ritual, through philosophy, through mathematics, through myth. You step closer to a wall carved with figures. The stone is worn smooth in places where countless hands have touched it. Touch is a kind of memory. You place your palm lightly against it. It is warm from the sun, and you feel how solid it is. So much of ancient life is fragile, food spoils, bodies weaken, paper tears. But stone remains. This is why rulers love stone. Stone can outlast arguments. As you walk through the complex, you notice offerings, small lamps, coins, carved objects. Some are humble. Some are expensive. All of them represent a person trying to be heard by something beyond human control. You imagine what it would be like to live in a world where the future is uncertain in ways modern people rarely feel. No antibiotics. Limited medical knowledge. Fires that can swallow neighborhoods. Politics that can shift suddenly. A bad season that can mean hunger. In such a world, a temple is not merely tradition. It is insurance. It is hope made visible. You leave the Serapeum and begin descending back toward the city's daily pulse. As you go down the steps, the noise returns gradually, like waves returning after a moment of silence. The smell of bread comes again. The sound of bargaining. The laughter of children. The bray of animals. And you realize that in Alexandria, the sacred and the ordinary are never far apart. They share the same streets. Now, let's follow the late afternoon toward another essential piece of ancient city life: water, cleanliness, and conversation. In the late afternoon, as the strongest heat begins to soften, people start drifting toward the public baths. Not everyone goes, of course. Some cannot afford it. Some are too busy. Some have their own routines. But for many Alexandrians, the baths are not a luxury. They are part of life. They are where you wash away the day's sweat and dust. They are where you hear news. They are where you meet people, argue, negotiate, flirt, gossip, and sometimes even settle business. You approach the bathhouse and hear the sound of water inside, splashes, echoing voices, a constant wet rhythm. The entrance smells of oil and damp stone. Inside, the air is warmer, thicker. Light enters from high openings and falls in soft beams, catching steam. People move through the space in stages, like a ritual. First, the changing area, where clothing is placed carefully, or not carefully at all, depending on wealth and trust. Then the warm rooms. Then the hotter rooms. Then, sometimes, cold water at the end, shocking the body awake. You see men scraping oil and dirt from their skin with curved tools. They talk as they work. About a ship that arrived late. About a merchant who went bankrupt. About a rumor from Rome. About politics. About taxes. About a neighbor's scandal. The bathhouse is a place where private life becomes public conversation. You imagine what it would feel like to live in a city where news travels by mouth, not by screen. You would learn to listen carefully. Because a casual comment in the baths might become a story by nightfall. A rumor might become a panic. A compliment might become a promise. Words move fast here. You also notice the hierarchy. Wealthier men have attendants. They carry towels, oil, perfumes. They stand behind like silent shadows. Poorer men manage alone, sharing space, sharing air, sharing water. And somewhere beyond this, often unspoken, are enslaved people who do the hard labor that keeps such places running. They carry water. They heat rooms. They scrub floors. Ancient comfort often rests on invisible suffering. This is part of the truth of the time. You step out again into the street, feeling the imagined warmth of steam on your skin. Outside, the sky has shifted. The sunlight is lower now, softer. Shadows lengthen. The city begins to change its pace. Some vendors pack up their stalls. Some hurry to sell the last of what they have. Children run in the golden light. And somewhere nearby, you smell cooking. Garlic. Herbs. Roasting meat in wealthier homes. In poorer quarters, maybe lentils and onions simmering, simple and filling. The day is turning toward evening. And Alexandria, like all great cities, has a second life after sunset. Next, we'll follow that turn into evening, dinner, streets at dusk, and what it feels like when the lighthouse begins to matter most. The sun begins to lower, and Alexandria changes its face. The harsh brightness fades into a warmer gold. Shadows stretch across the stone streets, long and calm, like the city is exhaling after a busy day. Vendors start packing away their stalls. Baskets are lifted. Cloth is folded. Unsold greens are gathered quickly before they wilt. A fish seller washes his table with a bucket of seawater, the smell sharp and clean for a moment. People move with purpose now. Because evening brings a private urgency. You walk through neighborhoods where cooking smoke curls from windows and courtyards. You smell garlic crushed in a bowl. You smell onions. Lentils. Herbs. In wealthier houses, you catch a richer scent, roasting meat, honey, wine warming near a fire. In poorer quarters, dinner is simpler, but no less important. Bread, always bread. Olives. A bowl of beans. Maybe a bit of cheese. A handful of figs if the day was kind. You pass an open doorway and glimpse a family gathered low around a dish. They eat with fingers, tearing bread, sharing from the same bowl. There is conversation, soft, tired, affectionate. A child tries to speak too loudly and is gently corrected. Someone laughs anyway. If you lived in Alexandria, this would be your anchor. Not temples. Not libraries. But the familiar rhythm of evening food. A neighbor calls from one doorway to another. The words are casual, but the meaning is deeper. We are here. We made it through today. As the light dims, oil lamps begin to appear. Small flames in clay cups. A line of light along a balcony. A glow from a shop that stays open late. The city becomes softer at the edges. You walk toward a busier street and notice how the crowd changes. Fewer workers carrying loads. More people strolling. More groups talking. You hear music again, faintly. A flute. A hand drum. A voice singing a simple phrase. For some, evening is rest. For others, it is opportunity. A tavern door stands open. Warm noise spills out, laughter, clapping, argument. Inside, men drink wine diluted with water, because strong wine is a fast road to trouble. Someone boasts. Someone challenges. Someone tells a story too loudly. Someone else claims it never happened. And outside, a small figure waits in the shadow, watching. In Alexandria, the night brings comfort, and risk. You feel the sea wind return, cooler now. It moves through the streets like a quiet messenger, carrying salt and relief. It touches the sweat on your skin and makes you shiver slightly. You look toward the harbor. The sky is turning a deeper blue. Soon the lighthouse will matter most. Now, let's follow the city into the first true darkness, when lamps glow, voices lower, and the great tower of Pharos begins its work. Darkness arrives gradually in Alexandria. Not like a curtain dropping, but like ink spreading through water. The last orange fades from the rooftops. The sky deepens. The air cools. And the city begins to speak in a quieter voice. Lamps flicker along the main roads. Their light is small, trembling, easily swallowed by shadow. A person walking at night learns to watch the ground carefully, to avoid broken stones, puddles, and sudden obstacles. You walk with a steadier pace now. At night, in a great city, hesitation can invite attention. You pass a group of men standing near a corner. They watch people go by with idle eyes. One laughs. Another scratches his beard. They are not necessarily dangerous, but you feel the possibility, the way you feel the possibility of a storm in distant wind. A woman steps out of their path without looking at them. A merchant tightens his grip on a bag. A soldier passes at a distance, and the group becomes quieter, at least for a moment. Night is a negotiation. In the better lit streets, you find life continuing. Shops that sell hot food stay open, bread, chickpeas, small fried cakes. People buy quick meals. People speak in low tones. Someone bargains even now, because some habits never sleep. You hear private sounds behind doors. A baby crying. A couple arguing, then lowering their voices. A burst of laughter. A cough that seems too deep. You realize how close everyone lives to everyone else. Walls are thin. Courtyards echo. Balconies face balconies. In Alexandria, privacy is often a dream. As you walk toward the harbor, the air becomes salter. And you begin to see it. The lighthouse. At first, it is only a darker shape against a darker sky. Then you notice the light. It is not steady like modern electricity. It is alive. A flame, made brighter by height and design, turning slowly, casting a moving presence across the water. From far away, sailors will see it and feel relief. Because darkness at sea is absolute. And the lighthouse is a promise. Land is here. Safe harbor is possible. You pause and watch the beam sweep. A boat creaks in the distance. Rope taps against wood. Somewhere a bell rings, dull and deep. You imagine what it would be like to live in a city where the lighthouse is not a landmark but a companion. Something you glance at, the way you glance at the moon. Something that tells you where you are. The harbor at night has its own world. Men unloading cargo by lamplight. Guards checking papers. Sailors smoking, whispering, leaning on crates. And beyond them, the sea. Black, patient, endless. Now, we'll move closer to Pharos itself, and let the night widen around you, until Alexandria becomes a soft, distant hum. You stand near the water and let the night settle. The city behind you is still awake, but it has changed. The daytime roar has become a low, constant murmur, like a crowd heard through a closed door. The sea in front of you is darker than stone. It reflects the lighthouse in broken lines of light that tremble with every small wave. The beam sweeps again, and for a moment everything feels organized, shore, water, sky, then it moves on, and the world returns to shadow. You imagine living as a sailor. Days of sun and thirst. Nights of cold and fear. Storms that arrive suddenly, with no mercy. For sailors, Alexandria is not only wealth. It is rest. A harbor where you can drink fresh water. A place to fix a sail. A market where you can trade and earn. A tavern where you can forget the sea for a few hours. You also imagine living as someone who never leaves. A person born in Alexandria, who grows old within sight of Pharos. For them, the lighthouse is a symbol of the city's reach. It says, we matter. We are seen. We guide others. The air smells of salt and tar and smoke. A small lantern swings from a post, creaking gently. Two men speak quietly nearby, their words carried away by the breeze before you can catch them. And you think of the many kinds of people who share this night. Scholars asleep over scrolls. Merchants counting coins by lamplight. Families packed into small rooms. Soldiers on patrol. Priests finishing late rituals. Thieves watching for chance. Sailors dreaming of land. Alexandria holds them all. A city is not only its monuments. It is its breaths, taken together. In, and out. In, and out. The beam of Pharos continues its slow turning. A patient eye. As you watch, you begin to feel something shift inside you. The day's noise fades. The mind loosens its grip. Because the sea has a way of making human concerns feel smaller, softer. And the lighthouse, steady in its purpose, feels like a reminder. Even in darkness, direction exists. Now, we'll leave the harbor and drift into the final quiet of the night, where the city becomes distant, and sleep becomes easy. It is late now. Alexandria does not go silent the way a small village might. Even deep in the night, there are footsteps somewhere, a door closing, a distant voice. But the city quiets. Like a fire settling into coals. You walk back from the harbor through streets that are mostly empty. The lamps are fewer here. Shadows pool in doorways. A cat slips across your path without a sound. You keep your pace calm, unhurried. You are not afraid. Tonight, you are only observing. You pass a courtyard where someone has left a lamp burning low. The flame is small. The air around it is still. The light paints the stone with a soft amber glow. You think about the people sleeping behind these walls. Some will wake before dawn to bake bread. Some will wake to unload ships. Some will wake to study. Some will wake to pray. And some may not wake at all, because ancient life can be fragile. But in this moment, the city is resting. And you can rest too. Let your breathing slow again. In, and out. In, and out. Picture the canopic way at night, wide and empty, columns standing like quiet guardians. Picture the markets with their stalls closed, the spices packed away, the voices gone. Picture the serapeum above the city, stone holding the moonlight. And picture Pharos still shining, turning, patient. A light that does not panic. A light that simply does its work. Now imagine you are lying down in a cool room. You hear the faintest sounds of Alexandria outside. A distant dog. A soft footstep. A far-off creak of wood in the harbor. And beyond all of it, you hear the sea. Steady. Breathing. Wave after wave. Breath after breath. Nothing you need to do tonight. Nothing you need to solve. Ancient Alexandria can carry the stories for you. Let the city drift away. Let the lighthouse become a small star in your mind. Let the sea wash the last thoughts from your day. And when you are ready, sleep.